Hello everyone. Today I am going to tell an incredible story that shows how a simple act of kindness can completely change the course of our lives. This is the true story of Carlos, a mechanic from a small workshop on the outskirts of Milan, Italy, who unknowingly helped one of the greatest stars of world football, Zlatan Ibrahimović. Settle in, because this journey is full of surprises, coincidences, and valuable lessons about generosity and humility. Carlos Rossi was a simple 55-year-old man, born and raised in Milan. Son of a mechanic who taught him everything about cars from a young age, Carlos inherited not only the technical knowledge, but also his father's values, honesty in work, and respect for the customer. His small workshop, Officina Rossi, located in a neighborhood far from the center of Milan, was nothing luxurious. The walls needed a fresh coat of paint, the tools showed signs of heavy use, and the office was just a small desk in the corner of the workshop. Unlike the large dealerships in the city, Carlos's workshop survived mainly due to its reputation for honest work and fair prices. Carlos had been a widower for 5 years. His wife, Maria, had passed away after a long battle with cancer, leaving him with his only son, Pietro, who was now 15 years old and dreamed of being a soccer player. Pietro was talented, but the family's financial conditions did not allow him to attend a good football school. Carlos worked hard to give the best to his son, but always within the budget. At that time, the workshop was going through difficulties. The competition from large maintenance chains and the economic crisis in Italy had significantly reduced the number of customers. Carlos was worried, but he kept a smile on his face and the determination to overcome that difficult moment. It was a rainy Tuesday in October. The day was particularly slow at the shop, with only 2 cars to fix, and Carlos was taking the opportunity to organize the tools when he heard the sound of a car stopping in front. Through the foggy window, he saw a black Lamborghini Urus with one of its wheels visibly damaged. Carlos wiped his hands on the cloth he always carried in his pocket and went to the door. From the car, a tall man with long hair tied in a bun got out, wearing dark and simple clothes, but clearly expensive. "Good morning. I had a problem with the tire. I hit a pothole a few kilometers back," said the man with a foreign accent, but in understandable Italian. Carlos was not the type to follow celebrities or football frequently. His free time was dedicated to his son and maintaining the house. To him, that man was just another client who needed help, although the car indicated someone of means. "Sure, let's take a look," Carlos replied with his usual concern. "It seems that in addition to the tire, the wheel was also damaged. It will need to be replaced." The man seemed impatient. "How long is it going to take?" "I have an important appointment. For a car like this, I would normally have to order the part, which would take a few days. But I have a compatible wheel that I can temporarily adapt if you prefer. It wouldn't be the original, but it would ensure your safety until you get the correct part." The man seemed surprised by the honesty. In many workshops, they would try to convince him to wait for the original part or charge an outrageous price for a temporary solution. "Can you do this now?" "In an hour it will be ready," assured Carlos. "You can wait in the room next door. It's not very comfortable, but there's coffee." Yeah. While working on the car, Carlos noticed that the man hadn't gone to the waiting room. Instead, he was watching the mechanics work with interest. "You understand these cars well," commented the foreigner. "I learned from my father and then took specialized courses. Even a small workshop like mine needs to constantly update itself." The conversation flowed naturally. The man asked about the workshop, how long Carlos had been working there, and gradually the mechanic ended up sharing a bit of his life, the loss of his wife, the financial difficulties, and especially his son's dream of becoming a football player. "Pietro has talent, but the good training schools are expensive. He trains in the neighborhood field with his friends. Sometimes I think I should sell the workshop to invest in his dream, but this place belonged to my father. The man listened attentively, occasionally asking questions about the boy's talent. What position does he play? Forward. He says he likes to score goals. Carlos smiled. Actually, his idol is a Swedish player. What's his name again? Ah, Ibrahimović. Pietro even has a poster of him in his room. The man smiled enigmatically but didn't say anything. When Carlos finished the job, he showed the client the work done, explaining each step in detail and recommending that they switch to the original part as soon as possible. "How much do I owe?" asked the man. Carlos calculated a fair price, without charging extra for it being a luxury car, as many would. "It's €180 for the service and the spare wheel." The man took out his wallet and handed over €200. "Keep the change. You do honest work." It's rare to find that nowadays. Before leaving, the man asked, "Will your son be home tonight?" Carlos, a bit confused by the question, replied, "Yes, he comes back from school around 4. I'll come back later to exchange it for an original part. Maybe I'll bring something for the boy," said the man before getting into the car and leaving. Carlos was intrigued, but soon returned to work. Eccentric clients were not uncommon, especially those who drove cars like that. At 6 in the evening, Carlos was already closing the workshop when he heard the sound of the Lamborghini approaching again. The same man got out of the car, this time accompanied by another man carrying a box. "Good evening, Carlos. I brought the original wheel so we can make the exchange," said the mysterious customer. While Carlos was working on changing the tire, the man asked to meet Pietro. The boy, who was helping his father after school, approached shyly. "Your father told me you play soccer," the man commented. "Yes, sir. Whenever I can," replied Pietro politely. "And who is your favorite player?" The boy didn't hesitate. "Zlatan Ibrahimović. He is the best." It was at that moment that the man broke into a wide smile and responded playfully, "I completely agree." Carlos, who was finishing tightening the wheel bolts, watched as the man extended his hand to Pietro and said, "Nice to meet a fan. I am Zlatan." Pietro's face turned into pure surprise and disbelief. The boy looked at his father as if seeking confirmation, but Carlos was equally shocked. There, in his small workshop, was none other than Zlatan Ibrahimović, one of the greatest football players in recent history. I didn't recognize you," stammered Carlos, suddenly feeling embarrassed. "Sorry, I haven't been following football much lately." Zlatan smiled. "Don't apologize. It was refreshing to be treated like a normal person and not like a celebrity. Your honesty and hard work impressed me, Carlos." Zlatan then explained that he had gone out to take care of personal matters when he encountered the car trouble. He was without his usual team and decided to seek help at the first workshop he found. "I heard you talking about your son and his dream. I would like to see how he plays." Pietro could hardly breathe from so much emotion. "Your idol wants to see you play?" It seemed like a dream. Zlatan then made an unexpected proposal. "I am organizing a social project with a football school for young talents who do not have financial means. It would be an honor to have Pietro as one of the first students if he is interested." Carlos didn't know what to say. The words simply wouldn't come. "Furthermore," continued Zlatan, "I am looking for a trustworthy workshop to take care of the maintenance of the project vehicles. The way you work, Carlos, with honesty and respect, is exactly what I'm looking for in a partner." It was then that the assistant accompanying Zlatan approached with the box he was carrying. Inside, it was an official Swedish national team jersey, signed by Zlatan himself, and an official Champions League ball, also with his autograph. "For your son, as a thank you for helping me today. And here," he said, handing over a card, "are my personal contacts. We will discuss the details of the partnership and the future of Pietro." In the days that followed, Carlos and Pietro lived in a state of euphoria and disbelief. Did that really happen? Would the great Zlatan Ibrahimović really show up again, or would it all just be a big joke? The doubts were dispelled when 3 days later they received a call from Zlatan's assistant inviting Pietro for a trial at the new academy that was being set up. The place was nothing less than a professional training center near Milan, where young talents would be trained by former players and experienced coaches. When they arrived at the venue, they were received as special guests. Zlatan was there and introduced Carlos to several businessmen who supported the project. "This is the man who helped me when I needed it, without knowing who I was. He is the kind of person I want to work with." It was then that Carlo understood the magnitude of what was happening. Zlatan was not only offering a spot in the school for Pietro, but also proposing that Autoficina Rossi become the official workshop responsible for maintaining the entire fleet of vehicles for the social project. "We need honest and hard-working people, Carlos. People like you are rare these days." In the following months, Carlos and Pietro's lives changed completely. The workshop got new equipment, hired more employees, and underwent a complete renovation. The name Autoficina Rossi became well known in the city, especially after some Milan players started bringing their personal cars there for maintenance, following Zlatan's recommendation. Pietro, for his part, flourished in the little school. His natural talent, now honed by professional coaches, began to attract attention. In less than a year, he was selected to join the youth teams of a First Division Italian team. Carlos kept his feet on the ground. Even with the growth of the business, he continued working with the same dedication and honesty that had impressed Zlatan on that rainy day. He made a point of personally attending to each customer, famous or not, with the same respect and care. The friendship between Carlos and Zlatan grew over time. The player visited the workshop regularly, not only for professional matters, but also to chat with the mechanic, who treated him like a normal person when many only saw the celebrity. On one of those visits, Zlatan confided in Carlos, "You know, that day, I could have called anyone from my team to solve the car problem. But something told me to walk into your workshop, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. You reminded me of the value of humility and honesty." 3 years have passed since that fateful meeting. Autoficina Rossi has transformed into a network of specialized workshops with 5 units spread across the Milan region, all operating under the same principles of honesty and quality that Carlos has always upheld. Pietro, now 18 years old, signed his first professional contract with a football club and was called up to join the Italian U20 national team. In every interview, he made a point of mentioning how it all started thanks to the casual meeting between his father and Zlatan Ibrahimović. The football school started by Zlatan grew and became a foundation serving hundreds of talented young people from low-income families, offering not only sports training but also educational and psychological support. Carlos became a member of the foundation's board, contributing his vision on the importance of ethics and hard work. At a special ceremony to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of the foundation, Zlatan surprised everyone by inviting Carlos to the stage. There, in front of journalists, businessmen and former players, the Swedish star publicly shared for the first time the story of the mechanic who helped him without knowing who he was. "Many people ask me why I chose Carlos as a partner in this project. The answer is simple. That day, in his workshop, I was not Zlatan Ibrahimović, the football player. He was just a man with a broken car needing help. And Carlos showed me that true integrity lies in how we treat people when we don't know who they are or what they can do for us." At the end of his speech, Zlatan announced that the foundation would be named Rossi Ibrahimović Foundation, in honor of the mechanic who exemplified the values they wanted to convey to the youth. The story of Carlos and Zlatan reminds us that small acts of kindness, honesty, and professionalism can open unexpected doors. Carlos didn't help Zlatan expecting anything in return. He simply acted as he always did with all his clients. And it was exactly this authenticity that made such a deep impression on the football star. For Zlatan, finding someone who treated him like an ordinary person, without flattery or interest, was a rare and valuable experience. For Carlos, the meeting was the reward for a lifetime of honest work and dedication. This true story teaches us that we never know who is on the other side of our daily interactions. Each person we cross paths with carries infinite possibilities. The salesperson we assist, the driver who takes us, the cafe attendant, any of them can be the turning point in our journey. Even more importantly, we should not treat well only those we think can bring us benefits. The true nobility of character lies in how we treat everyone, regardless of who they are or what they can do for us. Carlos didn't change after his life transformed. He remained the same honest and hard-working man, just with more opportunities and resources. It was this consistency of character that made him not just a business partner to Zlatan, but a true friend. And so our story ends with a lesson worth remembering every day. Treat every person you meet with respect and dignity. You never know when you are in front of someone who can change your life forever, or when you can be that person in someone else's life.